Welcome to the world of science fiction. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss new stories. Enjoy the listening.
The night was exceptionally clear as David set up his telescope in the backyard. Living far from the city lights had its perks, and tonight, the skies were generous, offering a splendid view of the stars. He adjusted the lens, his breath visible in the cool air, and peered into the vast cosmos. Suddenly, a streak of light sliced through the heavens, too slow for a shooting star and too erratic for an aircraft. David frowned, tracking it with his telescope, but it moved unpredictably. Curious, he grabbed a flashlight and headed toward the nearby woods where the object seemed to have descended. The woods were quiet except for the crunch of leaves underfoot. David's flashlight beam danced between trees, stopping abruptly on a strange, metallic surface. Before him stood an alien craft, bathed in moonlight, its design unlike anything terrestrial. "Whoa," David whispered, stepping closer. A hatch opened with a hiss, casting a blue glow. A figure emerged, slender, slightly taller than him, with luminescent skin and large, expressive eyes that studied him cautiously. "Stay where you are, human," the figure spoke, her voice melodious yet commanding. She stepped forward into the light, revealing her intricate silver suit that shimmered under the flashlight's beam. David raised his hands, showing he meant no harm. "I'm just curious," he said, his voice steady despite his pounding heart. "I've never seen anything, or anyone, like you." The alien, noticing his amazement, relaxed slightly. "I am Alara," she introduced herself. "I require your assistance, David. You know my name?" He blinked in surprise. "I scanned your thoughts to learn your language quickly," Alara explained. "It's necessary for our interaction." David chuckled nervously. "That's pretty handy." Alara stepped closer, her gaze intense. "I intended to bring a human back with me to study. It seems fate has chosen you." "Wait, abduct me?" David took a step back. "I think there's been a misunderstanding. I can't just leave Earth." Alara tilted her head, considering. "Perhaps there is another way. You could assist me here instead. And if I say no?" "That would complicate matters," she said, a subtle threat underlying her tone. David thought for a moment, the absurdity of the situation settling in. He was talking to an alien, in his backyard, about potentially being abducted. Yet, there was something about Alara's presence that felt sincere, even vulnerable. "Okay, Alara," he finally said. "I'll help you. But no abducting, agreed?" "Agreed." She nodded, relief evident in her eyes. They walked back toward the house, the alien vessel silent and ominous in the background. David couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and apprehension as he considered what this unexpected encounter might bring. "So, what exactly do you need to study?" David asked as they reached the back door. "Everything," Alara responded, her eyes twinkling with a curious light. "Human emotions, culture, your technological achievements, and the physical environment." "Sounds like a tall order," David remarked, opening the door to let her in. "But first, how about a coffee? It's going to be a long night." Alara paused, her expression puzzled. "Coffee? I am unfamiliar with this." "You'll love it," David grinned, stepping into the role of Earth's ambassador. "Let's start with the small things." As they entered the warmth of his kitchen, David couldn't shake the feeling that this was the beginning of something truly out of this world. David's kitchen was bathed in the soft glow of the overhead light as he introduced Alara to the human ritual of coffee making. She watched intently, her eyes following every move he made, from measuring the grounds to the gentle pour of hot water. "So, coffee is a popular Earth beverage?" Alara asked, her voice tinged with curiosity. "Extremely popular," David replied with a smile. "It's like a morning ritual for most of us. Helps kick-start the day." He handed her a mug, steam curling from the surface. Alara sniffed cautiously, her nose crinkling slightly. Taking a tentative sip, her face softened, a smile breaking through. "It's invigorating," she decided, and took another sip. David chuckled, leaning against the counter. "Glad you like it. So, what's the plan now? You were pretty set on taking someone back with you." Alara set the mug down, her expression becoming serious. My mission was to bring a human back for observation. We've been monitoring Earth for centuries, but never interfered. My people are curious about human culture and behavior, and you just pick random people to study? She shook her head. Not random, no. I was looking for someone who exhibited a deep connection with the cosmos, which is why I was drawn to you and your stargazing. David felt a mix of pride and apprehension. So, what now? Since I'm not going back with you, how do we proceed? I have equipment on my ship that could help me study from here, but the ship itself, Alara hesitated, her gaze drifting toward the window where her craft lay hidden among the trees. It's damaged. I manipulated its systems to return after you disrupted its course. Wait, your ship is broken? David stood up straighter. Can it be fixed? It can, but I require specific materials that aren't readily available on Earth. David thought for a moment, then snapped his fingers. I have a friend, Casey, who's good with tech. Maybe he can help us out. Alara considered this. I must trust your judgment, David. Lead the way. The drive to Casey's workshop was quiet, Alara absorbing the world passing by her window. When they arrived, Casey was all curiosity and barely contained excitement. Dude, you brought an alien to my garage? Casey laughed, shaking his head in disbelief. He turned to Alara, extending his hand. I'm Casey. I'll do my best to help you. Alara took his hand, mimicking the human gesture she'd just learned. Thank you, Casey. I am called Alara. Inside the cluttered garage, filled with all manner of gadgets and machinery, Casey listened intently as Alara explained what she needed. Some of this stuff is beyond what we have on Earth, but maybe we can rig something up. Let's take a look at your ship. The trio made their way back to the ship, Casey whistling lowly as he examined its sleek, unfamiliar technology. This is some serious sci-fi stuff, he muttered, running his hands along the metallic surface. But I think I can figure it out. I'll need a couple of days, though. Alara nodded. That would be acceptable. I appreciate your efforts, Casey. As they worked to secure the area and cover the ship with camouflage tarps, David couldn't help but feel a growing sense of camaraderie. Here he was, a simple man with a telescope, working alongside his best friend and an alien, trying to fix a spaceship. Guess I'm part of a cosmic adventure now, David mused aloud. Alara smiled at him, her eyes reflecting the starlight. Indeed, David. And I am grateful for your earthly hospitality. As the night grew darker, the three of them sat outside the ship, sharing stories and plans. The stars twinkled overhead, silent witnesses to the unlikely alliance forming on the quiet Earth below. The next morning, David, Casey, and Alara gathered in Casey's cluttered living room, poring over schematics and technical manuals that Casey had collected over the years. So, based on what you've told me, we need to create a substitute for the alloy used in your ship's hull, Casey said, tapping a pencil against his notebook. The properties you're describing sound like a mix of titanium and something, well, not from around here. Alara nodded. Correct. The material is called zellarium in my language. It's highly resistant and adaptive, but I believe with the right components, you could mimic its essential properties. David leaned in, looking at the diagrams Alara had sketched. How do you normally repair this? I mean, is there like a cosmic hardware store you go to? Alara laughed softly, the sound melodic. Something like that, yes. We have technology that fabricates materials at a molecular level, but unfortunately, that technology is on my ship and also damaged. Casey scratched his head, then snapped his fingers. You know, I've been working on a composite material for a new drone design. It's nowhere near cosmic tech, but it might just do the trick here. Alara examined Casey's samples, her eyes brightening. This is promising, Casey. With some modifications, it could work. The three spent the day experimenting with materials and bonding agents, trying to replicate the properties of the zellarium. The garage was filled with the buzz of equipment and the smell of hot metal, the atmosphere one of focused collaboration. As evening approached, David brought in sandwiches and sodas, setting them on a clear spot on the workbench. You know, I never thought my knack for late-night snacks would come in handy during alien ship repair. Alara took a sandwich, examining it curiously before taking a bite. Humans have an interesting way of blending flavors. It's quite pleasant, Casey, mouthful, gave a thumbs up. Wait till we get to pizza night. Their laughter echoed in the garage, a light moment amidst their heavy task. The work continued into the night, the three moving seamlessly from one task to another, each learning from the other. At one point, as they were testing the new composite patch on a small section of the hull, David turned to Alara. Say this all works, and you fix your ship. What then? Will you just leave? Alara paused, her tools in hand. My mission was to gather information and return. But, she trailed off, looking at the stars visible through the open garage door. I've learned so much already, perhaps more than my superiors expected. Casey, catching the mood, clapped both on their backs. Let's not worry about departures yet. We've got a ship to fix, and I'm all in on this project. Plus, we haven't even started on the Earth culture lessons. We've got movies, music, and pizza night, David interjected with a grin. Alara smiled, a gesture more relaxed and genuine than any they'd seen before. Then let's focus on the task at hand. And perhaps pizza night. The work resumed with renewed vigor, the bonds of their unusual friendship strengthening with each piece they fitted together. Outside, the world went about its usual business, unaware of the small miracles happening in Casey's garage, where a man from Earth and a woman from the stars worked side by side, bridging galaxies with laughter and solder. As the days turned into a week, Alara became more familiar with Earth's customs, thanks to David and Casey's enthusiastic teaching. Today, they decided to take a break from their mechanical endeavors and dive into a more cultural experience. They brought Alara to a bustling local market to introduce her to a variety of Earth cuisines and traditions. Okay, Alara, this is a farmer's market, David explained as they walked past stalls bursting with colorful produce and lively vendors. People come here to buy fresh food directly from the farmers who grow it. Alara looked around with keen interest, her eyes reflecting the myriad colors of the fresh fruits and vegetables. This is similar to the agora on my planet, though ours are less vibrant. Casey, holding a hot dog in one hand and a soda in the other, grinned. You haven't seen anything yet. Wait till you try this. He handed her a hot dog, enthusiastically gesturing how to add condiments. With a tentative smile, Alara dressed her hot dog and took a bite, her expression morphing into one of surprise and pleasure. It's very complex in flavor, she said, examining the hot dog as if seeing food for the first time. Laughing, David nudged Casey. Wait until she tries the apple pie at Mrs. Caldwell's stall. It'll blow her mind. They continued through the market, Alara asking questions about everything from cheese, making to how organic farming on Earth compared to agricultural methods on her planet. At Mrs. Caldwell's stall, David introduced Alara to the concept of pie. This is apple pie, a classic Earth dessert, David explained as Mrs. Caldwell, a kindly older woman with a flour-dusted apron, handed them each a warm slice. Alara took a bite, her eyes lighting up. This is delicious. It's sweet, but balanced. Do all your foods have such depth of flavor? Most of our good ones do, Casey replied with a chuckle. Food is a big part of our culture. Each dish has a story. The day continued with more tastings and stories. Alara learned not just about food, but about the people and history behind the dishes. She listened intently as vendors shared family recipes and the origins of their craft. As the market began to wind down, the trio found a quiet spot near a fountain, enjoying the late afternoon sun. David turned to Alara, who seemed more relaxed and connected than ever before. So, what do you think of Earth now that you've seen a bit of our daily life? Alara looked thoughtful. It's fascinating. On my planet, everything is more regulated, more orderly. Here, there's a chaos, but it's vibrant, alive. It's quite captivating. Casey, always the joker, leaned in and whispered, just wait until we introduce you to movie night. If you think food is great, just wait until you see our films. Alara laughed, a sound that was becoming more frequent. I am eager to experience more of these human joys. David smiled, feeling a warmth that went beyond the setting sun. We're glad to have you here, Alara. It's not just you learning from us. We're learning a lot from you too. As they walked back to the car, Casey with leftovers in hand and David helping Alara navigate the uneven cobblestone path, There was a sense of camaraderie that only shared experiences can bring. They had started as a group thrown together by extraordinary circumstances, but had grown into genuine friends, each learning and growing from the other's perspectives. After their cultural day out, David suggested an evening at his favorite stargazing spot by a secluded lake. The sky was clear, offering a perfect canvas for a night under the stars. Casey, David, and Alara set up camp with a small telescope and a cozy bonfire. "As much as I enjoy the market, this is more my speed," David said, gazing up at the night sky. "There's something about the stars that makes everything else seem small." Casey, busy roasting marshmallows, nodded. "Yeah, it's like looking back in time, isn't it? Light from those stars took millions of years to reach us." Alara, sitting beside the telescope, looked thoughtful. "On my planet, stargazing is not just for pleasure. It's a form of meditation, a way to connect with the universe and our past." David turned the telescope toward a bright cluster. "Here, have a look at the Pleiades. On Earth, it's also known as the Seven Sisters." Alara peered through the telescope, her face illuminated by the soft starlight. "We have a similar constellation. We call it the Navigators, guides for our space travelers." The evening grew deep, and the trio shared stories of their respective cultures. David talked about his childhood dreams of space, inspired by old science fiction films and books. Casey shared tales of his adventures in tech, always pushing the envelope of what was possible. It was Alara's turn, and she hesitated, her voice softening. "I was chosen for this mission because of my expertise in human cultures, but also because I have no strong ties at home. No family waiting." David looked at her, the firelight casting shadows across his face. "That sounds lonely." "It can be," Alara admitted. "But meeting you and Casey, experiencing your friendship, it has changed my perspective significantly." Casey, always ready to lighten the mood, chimed in, "Well, you're part of our Little Earth family now, whether you like it or not." Alara smiled, a genuine, warm expression that reached her eyes. "I am beginning to appreciate the concept of family as you define it." They continued talking into the night, the sky a tapestry of twinkling stars. David taught Alara how to identify constellations, and Alara shared stories of celestial navigation according to her people's traditions. As the fire dwindled to embers, David pulled out a guitar, strumming softly, the notes floating up into the night. "Music is another way we connect," he explained. "Each song tells a story." Alara listened intently as David played a soothing melody. "This is beautiful, David. Music seems to speak a universal language." "It does," David agreed, placing the guitar beside him. "It's about sharing feelings, emotions that might be hard to express otherwise." Casey, who had been quiet, reflecting on the night, looked at both of his friends. "You know, this might be one of the best nights of my life. Out here, with friends, under the stars. It doesn't get much better than this." David and Alara nodded, the trio sitting in comfortable silence, each lost in thought but connected by the shared experience of the night. It was a moment of peaceful reflection, a pause in their ongoing adventure, reinforcing their bonds and grounding them in the wonders of the universe. After their night under the stars, David, Casey, and Alara spent more time exploring earthly experiences together. Yet, as autumn crept in with its cooler air and shorter days, a different kind of warmth began to grow between David and Alara, a closeness that went beyond friendship and cultural exchange. One evening, they found themselves alone in David's living room, as Casey had left early to attend a tech conference. David had lit a fire, and the soft glow of the flames cast a warm light in the room. Alara sat on the couch, wrapped in a soft blanket, her eyes reflecting the dance of the flames. David handed Alara a mug of hot cocoa, showing her another small piece of human culture. "It's a bit like coffee, but sweeter and more comforting in cold weather," he explained. Alara took a sip, her face lighting up with pleasure. "It's delicious," she said, "and warming. I can feel it spreading through me." David smiled, sitting down beside her but maintaining a respectful distance. "It's a favorite comfort drink for many of us here on Earth, especially during this season." They talked about the changes in the seasons, something Alera's planet did not experience in the same way Earth did. David described the cycle of life that each season brought, from birth in the spring to dormancy in the winter. Alera listened intently, then turned to David. David, I've been thinking a lot about how humans share their feelings. You use words, touches, even your music. It's very direct and very honest. I find it refreshing. David felt a warmth not from the fire, but from her words. It's not always easy for us to be open about how we feel, but yes, sharing emotions is a big part of who we are. There was a pause, a comfortable silence that stretched between them. Finally, David spoke, his voice soft. Alera, I've enjoyed every moment we've spent together. Learning about your world is fascinating, but learning about you is something else. Alera looked at him, her large eyes searching his. And I, too, have felt something, David. On my world, we don't connect this way. We don't allow emotions to guide us. But being here with you, I feel more alive. David reached out, his hand hesitating in the air between them before resting gently on her arm. Alera, there's something very human I want to share with you, if you're willing. What is it? Her voice was barely a whisper, curiosity mixed with anticipation. It's a kiss, David said. It's a way humans express affection, care, or love. I would like to experience this kiss, Alera said, her face open and trusting. Slowly, David leaned in, giving her time to pull away if she chose. When she didn't, he pressed his lips gently to hers. The kiss was soft and brief, but it sparked a surge of warmth that neither of them had expected. When David pulled back, he looked into Alera's eyes, searching for any sign of discomfort. Instead, he found a gentle wonder. How was that? He asked, his voice a tender murmur. Alera touched her lips, her expression thoughtful and new. It was very pleasant. I felt a connection, something deep and moving. David's heart skipped a beat. So did I, Alera. So did I. The rest of the evening passed in a new light, with conversations dipping not only into their cultures, but their personal hopes and dreams. For the first time, they discussed not just the mission or Earth's customs, but their own places in the universe, together. As the fire died down to glowing embers, both felt a profound connection that promised new beginnings. The soft glow of the morning light filtered through the curtains as David and Alera sat at the kitchen table, a map spread out before them. Today's plan was simple yet intimate. A hike through the local nature reserve, something David had wanted to share with Alera since she first expressed an interest in Earth's natural environments. Nature plays a big role in our lives here, David explained, tracing a path on the map with his finger. It's not just about the physical beauty. It's about how it makes us feel connected, grounded. Alera nodded, her eyes following his movements. On my planet, our interaction with nature is more functional. We don't often take time to simply enjoy it. I'm eager to experience it your way. As they walked through the dense foliage of the reserve, the air crisp and the sounds of wildlife all around, David pointed out various plants and their uses. Alera listened intently, occasionally asking questions that showed her deep curiosity. As the path led them to a secluded overlook with a view of a sparkling lake, David stopped and spread out a blanket he'd brought along. Let's take a break here. They sat, and Alera took a deep breath, visibly relaxing as she took in the view. It's beautiful, David. I understand now why you value these experiences. David smiled, feeling a surge of happiness at her appreciation. It's moments like these that I find most memorable. Sharing them with someone else makes them even more special. Alera turned to him, her expression softening. David, last night, after our first kiss, I felt something change between us. I think I'm beginning to understand human emotions better. David reached for her hand, holding it gently. I felt it too, Alera. I think we're discovering something wonderful together. Their conversation drifted from lighthearted topics to deeper, more personal ones. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, David felt it was the right moment. Alera, I know we come from different worlds, literally, but I feel a connection with you that I've never felt before. And I would like to explore that further with you, he said, his voice full of emotion. Alara leaned closer, her eyes meeting his in the fading light. I feel the same, David. Being with you, learning about love and emotion. It's overwhelming, but in the most positive way. As they leaned in, their second kiss was unhurried and tender, a mutual exploration that deepened their bond. They spent the evening talking and watching the stars emerge, wrapped in each other's arms in the tranquility of the natural world. When they finally decided to head back, their hands were intertwined, a silent affirmation of their growing feelings. The walk back was peaceful, filled with shared glances and soft laughter. Back at David's place, they decided to end the day by making dinner together. As David taught Alara how to make a simple pasta dish, the kitchen filled with the sounds of sizzling and the aroma of garlic and herbs. This is another form of art, isn't it? Alara asked as she stirred the sauce, a playful smile on her face. It is, David agreed, watching her with a fond expression. Cooking is a lot like love. It's about finding the right ingredients, mixing them at the right time, and creating something wonderful. As they sat down to eat, the room bathed in the soft light of candles, both felt a profound gratitude for the unexpected journey that had brought them together. They talked late into the night, their conversation flowing as easily as the wine. That night, Alara and David discovered not just the joy of shared experiences, but the deeper connection of shared hearts. It was a night to remember, marking the beginning of a new chapter in both their lives, where love was the greatest discovery of all. The morning light filtered through the curtains, casting a warm glow over the breakfast table where David and Alara sat in comfortable silence. Each was lost in thought, pondering the implications of the profound connection they had discovered. As David poured them both a cup of coffee, the air was thick with unspoken questions about the future. David broke the silence first, his voice hesitant but hopeful. Alara, these past few weeks have been incredible. I've never felt anything like this before, but I know there are decisions looming over us. Alara nodded, her expression contemplative. Yes, David. My mission was always to return after gathering data. But my data, she paused, smiling gently at him, now includes how deeply I've come to care for you and what life here feels like. David reached across the table, taking her hand. Is there a way you can stay? I mean, without causing trouble with your people. Alara sighed, her gaze drifting toward the window. It would be complicated. I'd have to send a final report, and then I could disable the navigation system. My ship would be grounded permanently, but it would also mean I could no longer return to my planet. I'd be exiled here. David squeezed her hand, his resolve firming. Only if that's what you want, Alara. I wouldn't ask you to give up your world for me unless you're sure. Alara turned to face him fully, her eyes clear. I have explored many planets, David, but none have made me feel the way I do here with you. Yes, I am sure. Heart swelling with a mix of joy and awe at her decision, David smiled. Then let's do it. Let's start this new chapter together. Later that day, they ventured out to Alara's ship, tucked away in the dense forest where they had first agreed to repair it. With mixed emotions, Alara approached the control panel, her fingers hesitating over the buttons. Are you ready? David asked, standing by her side. Alara nodded, taking a deep breath before pressing a sequence of buttons. The ship's console beeped softly, its lights flickering and then stabilizing. It's done. The navigation system is disabled. I can't go back now. David wrapped an arm around her, pulling her close. Then welcome home, Alara. As they walked back to the house, they discussed plans for the future. Alara was eager to learn more about Earth, and even toyed with the idea of using her knowledge to collaborate with local scientists. David, excited by her enthusiasm, proposed setting up a small observatory where they could work together on their shared passion for the stars. That evening, they hosted a small dinner with Casey, who was thrilled by Alara's decision to stay. The friends celebrated late into the night, sharing stories and plans, their laughter echoing through the house. Alara, feeling a sense of belonging she had never expected to find, knew she had made the right choice. As they sat looking up at the stars, David beside her, she felt an overwhelming sense of peace. I used to look up at the stars and feel small, David mused, his voice soft. But now, I look at them and see possibilities. I see a future with you. Alara leaned against him, her voice filled with contentment. And I see a home. As the night deepened, they sat together, hands entwined, watching the endless dance of the cosmos. For the first time in her life, Alara didn't feel like a visitor from a distant world. She felt like she was exactly where she belonged, with a future as bright as the starlit sky above.